Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do just a quick review of my Savage 93R17, which is a 17 HMR caliber rifle. And just a quick overview of this. I bought this, I believe around $350, $375, somewhere around that range. And then you'll notice that there is no front sight or rear sight. So you have to put a scope on this guy, which these rings, scope rings, you have to get the extended one just because when you pull the bolt up, if you have the shorter ones, it'll hit your scope. Those cost about 20 bucks. And then I got a Pro Staff Nikon scope on here, which is, I believe it's adjustable from 2 to 7 magnification. And that scope itself cost me around, say $150. Alright, just looking at this gun, it does have the thumb hole stock on it, wood stock. Feels kind of plasticky, but it's just probably the lamination on the stock. It's got a rubber butt stock, which is poorly trimmed if you look at it. It's got some flaking on the bottom. It's kind of just a quick, cheap cast. It's not the best, but you know, it works. And if you look kind of in the front, down towards the barrel end, you'll notice the foregrip, it's very thick, it's very wide. And this adds actually a lot of weight to the gun. And maybe comparison, it's pretty comparable to the Mosin Nagant in weight, but it is a lot shorter. I believe somewhere around a 24-inch barrel would be my guess, with somewhat of a shorter stock. So just as a comparison to another gun you may be familiar with, it is bolt action. It's a very smooth bolt, I like it very much, and it is a detachable box magazine. The only thing I don't like about this magazine is that you get to pull this out in order to pull the magazine. It does come out pretty hard. It is kind of a pain. It is 5 round. I've never seen, they do have aftermarket, but they're only made by Savage and they only make 5 round in 17 HMR. But they're very easy to load, fairly good quality, haven't had a problem. But to put it back in, kind of a pain as well. Got to make sure you pull this guy back, slide it in, and it's got to click in, just like that. If you don't, you will have feeding issues. I've had feeding issues with this guy, but mainly it's probably because I haven't seated my magazine well. Now, to look at the action, a little bit about the trigger, safety. It does have a manual safety, and it does have kind of the Glock style trigger safety. One thing about the manual safety, it's very easy to switch on, but it's very, very painful to switch off. It's kind of like I feel like someone shoved a paper clip in there and you're kind of forcing against that. It feels very cheap, kind of got some wiggle to it, very, very low quality safety. I don't like it. That's really my biggest complaint about this gun, but I guess it's something you can get around. One thing I have noticed, say you load a chamber, you load your last round in. This gun is empty, by the way, for those who care. You go to fire, you got to depress your trigger safety, and it fires. Let go of the trigger, notice your safety trigger is still depressed. And you can't put on your manual safety, which doesn't seem too logical to me, because after I fire my rifle, I always want to put my safety on, but you can't until you rack a new round in the chamber. Then you can put a safety on, which doesn't seem too good for me. But overall, the reason why I bought this gun is for its accuracy. Probably the most accurate rifle I've owned to date. Mainly it's due because of the 17 HMR round. Very small round, very accurate round. Haven't had a problem with it. Now, when I bought this gun, picked up two types of ammo, just two basic Winchester Super X 20 grain and your Remington Premium, which is I believe 17 grain. Now, Winchester, terrible rounds. And I'll tell you, after about the first, say, 25 rounds I fired, 4 of them were dry fires. Or 4 of them were duds, I should say. And it's not the gun, because after looking at the rounds, the firing pin did hit the primer, but the round didn't go off. Remington, no problem, no duds. Fired maybe about 100 rounds of these guys with this gun, not a single bad round. Winchester, 25 rounds, 4 of them were bad. Now, I can't say it's the Winchester brand. I gotta say it's the 17 HMR version of the Winchester Super X, because I have a 22 Magnum in Winchester Super X. Never had a problem with those rounds. So it's probably just either the 17 HMR version of the Winchester, or it's just this particular box that I bought. Just to know, alright, just as a conclusion, fairly good gun for your money. Do need to buy a scope, do need to buy scope rings. No front or rear sight. Rear sight, front sight, yep. Bolt action, very smooth. Safety, terrible. Wish they really changed that. Overall, it's a very heavy gun. It feels kind of short. So this is definitely a great hunting rifle. Alright, because it's very accurate, it's very short, which allows for good maneuverability throughout the woods. I do like the thumb hole grip. It fits really comfortable in the hand. And these stocks, you can replace these, and they do have a ton of variances on these stocks, and they're pretty cheap if you want to swap them out to, say, a plastic or just a wood one with no thumb grip in there. It also comes with, let me slide that down, a ring at the base to put a strap on it, and I had this strap from a shotgun I pulled off of. I just kind of threw it on here, and it does have 2 front posts, one here, one up here, that you can clip your strap up here. Alright, overall, pretty good gun. See, it's got those cutouts on the foregrip here. Flip this around so you can get a good look at the other side. It's pretty basic on this side. Overall, great gun. Few minor flaws, but for a cheap 17 HMR, probably second best to Ruger, much better than Marlin, and a couple of other brands you find here and there. Say, if you got the money, go for a Ruger. If you don't, sell it for a Savage. And that's my overview of my Savage 93R 17 HMR.